On the last episode of Menace, the Ken story, Ken started using cocaine regularly, which was probably the worst thing he could have done. Labor Day rolled around and him and Shalonda planned a cookout at the house. Everything was going fine until he decided to snort some coke and got caught by Hot Boy. After they exchanged some words, he was further triggered by seeing Omar leaving the kitchen where Shalonda was. Not only did they have words, but Omar pulled out a gun. Ken gave Shalonda the worst beating up to that point, and after that, they started fighting regularly. That went on for a while until Shalonda decided to move out. She called the police to have them escort her while she got her things, not knowing that Ken had warrants, and he went to jail again. He spent a bunch of time being mad with her until he started rooming with an older man who made him understand that he was really at fault for it all. So Ken decided that he'd let Shalonda go because he didn't want to make her suffer. But by default, he found that he was suffering. And now, Chapter 20, Mia, narrated by Shandora Warren. Music by Epidemic Sound. Things leveled out after that point. It was just acceptance, I think. Not specifically about Shalonda, just acceptance about life. I understood where I was and why I was there. If I was asked, I was in prison because I caught a drug charge and a violation. That was it. Shalonda was never a part of the equation after that point in time. The violation was never tied to the fact that the original charge was me beating up her stepdad. I just caught a violation because I was supposed to go to anger management and I didn't go. I no longer told the story of Shalonda calling the cops. I had gotten picked up on a drug charge and that was it. She was no longer a part of it. A lot of weight came off my shoulders around that time. Ma came home from prison, so I didn't have to worry about her being locked up. She hadn't been approved to visit me, but I had talked to her on the phone. She seemed to be doing well. She was working and everything. But most of all, she was back at the house. That was the biggest thing for me. I had been handling things when I was home, but when I got arrested, I was worried about the house going down. It was vacant for a year and some change while me and Ma were both locked up, but she was able to step back in when she got home, and that made me feel a little bit better. Things got better for me in prison too. After not getting into trouble for a while, I got moved back into Building 2. Being in Building 2 helped pass time a little bit. Building 3 was just an animal house. Nobody there was eligible for programs or anything. You were just there, fighting, conning, and trying to get by. But in Building 2, I was allowed to take classes and go to programs. I got my GED while I was in Building 2, and I finally started going to an anger management program. But most of all, I got a job. For the first time in my life, I had an actual job. It wasn't much. I was cleaning, and the pay sucked. It was like 25 cents an hour. It did, however, give me the opportunity to get out of the pod a little more. And then there was an additional benefit. Well, I thought it was a benefit at the time. It was a Sunday, a visitation day. No one had come to visit me. I was only in the visitation area because I was supposed to be cleaning after all the visits were over. But that day, a couple of the visits had run a little bit behind, and the officers were letting them finish up. That was cool. I wasn't in a rush to get back to my pod, so I stood in the corner and waited for them to finish. When everything was over, I did my cleaning, then went back to my unit. That was it. Just a regular Sunday in prison. But when I got back, I got approached by one of the dudes in my pod. "Ayo, Ken, let me holler at you." They called him Black, or Brooklyn Black, whichever. He was one of the few dudes that I was okay with in there. Black was a real cool dude from Brooklyn. A few years before, he was visiting family in Virginia and got caught up in a stick-up plot. He told me that his cousin had robbed a lady and he just happened to be there. Didn't even know it was going to happen, but he went down because he was there. Typical Virginia antics. That's the story he told. Anyway, Black was 7 years into a 10-year sentence. At that point, I was 4 years into mine, so we were set to get released within a year of each other. Black was cool, but he always talked like he was trying to make a business deal, and that day was no different. Black shook my hand, and with a smile he said, "Hey man, my peoples want to holler at you." The way he said it, along with the handshake, made me feel like he was congratulating me. All I could say was, "Who's your peoples?" Black started laughing and broke it down. My cousin Mia, she came to visit me. She was sitting right at the table when you came into the visitation room. You ain't see her? Anyway, she said she want to holler at you. I guess Black gave me more credit for being a little more observant than I was. Otherwise, this is the thing. I ain't even gonna beat around the bush. I already knew exactly who I was. I was an attractive dude. It hadn't ever been hard for me to get a woman, but that was it. I was always gonna find a woman I liked, and I was gonna go and get her. That whole she wanna holler at you deal wasn't really my thing. I was an aggressor. If a woman presented herself to me, it felt too easy. Best case scenario, I was probably gonna sleep with her. If she was stepping to me, I felt like she was probably stepping to everybody. But it wasn't best case scenario. I was locked up, and she wasn't. I couldn't even sleep with her. And if I had to be honest, I didn't really trust it. Black was nicknamed Black for a reason. He was a big Amazonian ape-looking dude with a bunch of bumps on his face. In my mind, cousin Mia looked just like him, maybe with a wig on or something. There was one thing about me. I had done my share of sleeping around, but they had all looked like something. Seriously, I hadn't stepped to one ugly girl in my entire life, and I knew the setup. There were dudes in prison who were dealing with some absolute swamp possums because they could get something out of it. Some of those ugly girls were spending their whole checks on niggas that were locked up. I wasn't trying to knock the hustle. You do what you gotta do in there. But I wasn't that dude. Ugly cousin Mia wasn't gonna suck me in. I didn't care how much money she had. But I couldn't say that though. I mean, how could I? I guess I was good that I didn't. Black started giving me the lowdown on Mia. And I'm gonna be honest, he sold her like a used car. According to Black, Mia was good people's. She was 21 and she had a 2-year-old son. Mia had her own place, her own ride, she was in school, and she worked at a call center. He did a lot to hype her up, so I felt like I could ask what I really wanted to know. What she looked like, though. Black started laughing. Hey man, my peoples ain't ugly. I had to laugh too. I was looking at Black, and he was probably at the top on the list of ugly people that I had seen that day. Yet he said it like there was no way that anybody in his family could be ugly. But he really seemed interested in making the sale, so he told me that he had a picture. And I was intrigued by that point, so I went to his sale to check it out. Black pulled out some pictures and he started separating them out. He passed the stack over to me and said, "This is her." They were all pictures that had been taken together while she came to visit. I looked at Black, then I looked at the pictures that I was holding. He laughed and he said, "Yeah, nigga, you're welcome." I found that to be an odd reaction, considering the fact that she was his cousin, but he knew what I was thinking. Mia was fine. Black was probably 6'2" or 6'3". Standing beside him, she was a tiny little thing, probably 5'2" or 5'3". She was real cute, light skinned with long black hair that was nearly to her elbows. And the body? Mia had body for days. She had full breasts, a tiny waist, and thick legs and hips. She wasn't underdressed in any of the pictures. Even still, I could tell that her body was right. Alright, Black had my attention, but I had one question. Why me? Mia didn't know me. We hadn't had a conversation or anything. Why was she interested in me? Black's answer? Nigga, I don't know. She said she want to holler at you. I mean, I knew what I looked like. It wasn't a far reach on the streets, but I was in prison and she was outside looking like that. According to Black, she had a lot going for herself. So she could obviously pull a decent dude on the streets. What she want with me? But I decided to go with it. I wasn't like some of them other dudes. I had 2 years left. I wasn't looking for somewhere to go. But in my mind, a little conversation couldn't hurt. But it turned out to be so much more. It started off real simple. I got in on Brooklyn Black's phone call. He called Mia, and I got on the phone to talk to her. It was awkward at first. What do you say to a woman that you don't know? One that you didn't even knew that you wanted to know. But I was kin, and she was cute, so I was going to see where it went. I started with the bare minimum because that's all we had in the beginning. I told her that I liked her pictures. "Oh yeah?" she said. Well, we started out on the right foot then. I liked what I saw too. Mia had a certain wit about her, and that threw me off. I took the phone receiver away from my ear and glanced back at Black for a second. That created a short pause on my end. I placed the phone back to my ear just in time to hear her say, "Hello?" "Yeah, I'm here," I said. Without missing a beat, she responded, "Oh, I thought I lost you already." Mia was bold, and I wasn't used to that. But if I had to be honest, something in me liked it. However, I was Ken, and I was not in the business of being aggressed by a woman. And that being so, I had to take control of the situation. I responded, "Nah, sweetheart, we're just getting started. Tell me a little bit about yourself." She said. "What you want to know?" I responded, "Everything." I wasn't looking for anything from Mia. She was some random thing that just popped up. If you've ever been locked up, you know that the smallest of things can make or break your time in there. I mean, it's never home, but there are things that can make it better. One of those things is connection. I don't mean visitation because that can backfire. Nothing hurts worse than watching somebody walk out of that room and you can't go with them. But connection is different. Being connected to someone works on a completely different level. And that's what I eventually found with Mia, connection. After that first conversation, I added Mia's phone number to my call list. We didn't really know each other, so there weren't any expectations. I called her about a week after her number was approved. When the call connected, she surprised me. She started the conversation by saying, "Ken, that kinda sounds like somebody I should know, but I don't know because I haven't heard his voice in a while." All I could do was laugh. Like I said, Mia was bold, but in a funny kind of way. "My bad," I said. "But anyway, what's up with you?" And the conversation took off from there. And when I say the conversation took off, I mean just that. Me and Mia started talking every day. We talked about all kinds of stuff. She kept me connected to the outside world. By that point, I had been locked up for over 4 years. Mia always told me stuff like, "Nobody wears that anymore," or "Nobody says that anymore." She always thought it was funny that I was so out of the loop, but how would I know? Think about it. When you're locked up, you spend most of your time with people who are also locked up, and how would they know? Nobody was coming to visit me, so I wasn't picking up on lingo and trends from them. But Mia kept me connected to the outside world. She watched a lot of TV, and she always tell me about it. It was like 2003. Mia watched America's Next Top Model like her mind was gone bad. I think she secretly wanted to be on the show or something. She would tell me about it like I knew the people. The whole time, I was just happy to be connected to something that wasn't the day in and day out of prison. It wasn't deep with me and Mia. We didn't talk about feelings and stuff. Honestly, there weren't any feelings there. She was just entertaining and funny. She started to visit me, and I liked the way that we went back and forth with each other. She was flirtatious and feisty. I mean, I don't really know how to explain it. I guess I just enjoyed her. That's it. I enjoyed her in a way that I hadn't ever enjoyed anyone else. Mia was like a homie, but not really because I wanted to sleep with her. Bad. She was fine, and she could hold her own in a conversation. She really seemed to have herself together. Our conversations weren't deep like the ones I used to have with Shalonda, and I was happy about that. I was in my mid-20s, and by that point, I was about to roll out of prison. I didn't want to be serious about anybody. My last situation with Shalonda, and they ain't end well. I just wanted to be entertained. But life. Thank you so much for listening. Please make sure to follow Shenny Tells a Story on Facebook and Instagram. I'd love to hear from you. If you'd like to purchase books by Shandora Warren, they're all available on Amazon in ebook, paperback, and some in hardback formats. Please like, follow, and share this podcast with your friends, family, and frenemies because all relationships matter, even the toxic ones. Thanks so much for helping me to create the world that I want to see. Oh yeah, you're welcome. Shine, little girl.